For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some of the unsung heroes for the top 10 teams going into 2024, but now it's time for a Hot Take Thursday, and I think this one might be a little hot, might be not as hot as some of the past ones, but I do think Miami will be the big winners of the transfer portal. I do think they will be the most improved team, and part of that is because I think they might have to be the most improved team, but we'll get to that. Oh my God, excuse me. We will get to that as we go through this. But just to give you an idea of where they're sitting right now, who has already found their way out of Coral Gables, and the running back position is the one where they've taken the biggest hit. But Ja'Cory Brown is the quarterback that they have lost. He's someone that is very talented, super athletic. Definitely will have a market out there for him. I think he played a little bit in the Pinstripe Bowl this past year and played some good football. But him finding a new place to play doesn't necessarily surprise me with Cam Ward coming in. You also have Trevante Citizen and Henry Parrish, two guys at running back that are kind of different levels of going to miss them type of thing, how big of a hit this is. Then you have Logan Sagapolu, who is an O-lineman who I'm not overly worried about, to be totally honest with you. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you have Jameer Burrows, a defensive lineman, and Nigel Kelly, an edge. So of these guys, I'm kind of mainly worried about five of them. Not necessarily worried about Sagapolu as much as maybe some other people are. I think that O-line is just very talented, and he was just not going to find the field, to be totally honest with you. So Jameer Burrows is someone that I think you would love to have around because it is a position of need. But at the end of the day, it might not be the worst thing that he's finding his way out. It might be because other guys are stepping up. It might be because they see someone in the portal that they really like and they're going to go after. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how this kind of develops from here for the defensive tackle position. But Jameer Burrows is one that you would love to keep on campus, but not necessarily the worst thing when he does walk off, because there are a lot of defensive tackles that they will be going after in this portal window. Ja'Cory Brown and Trevante Citizen are both guys that I think are super talented and have the ability to be big-time players for Miami in the future, but can't necessarily fault them for trying to find a new place to really be able to be on the field. I don't think Trevante Citizen would have found the field too often this upcoming year. Ja'Cory Brown would have had a very, very tough time, barring any injury from Cam Ward, to find the field. So I would be surprised if either of those guys were gonna be big time players for them in 2024. So can't necessarily hate on them for that. And then Nigel Kelly and Henry Parrish, I think those are tough hits. I think Nigel Kelly especially is one that you would love to keep around. They are replaceable, but you got to act fast and you got to get the right guys in there, because those guys definitely would have played a part in 2024, as even if it was as depth pieces to kind of give you a high level at those two positions. But definitely didn't love to see those guys walk out the door, and will be trying their darndest to replace them as quickly as possible. So but now let's get to why I think how, first of all, Miami can kind of rebuild this roster and make it stronger over the next 2 weeks, because there's a lot of different paths. But to me, it all starts with Damian Martinez. I think he is the guy that they need to be absolutely locked in on. I think they are currently the team that seems to be the leader for him, and that totally makes sense to me. Definitely someone that would be a great addition to this team and would make this backfield absolutely scary. You add someone like Damian Martinez to Mark Fletcher Jr., I think that is quite the duo. That a lot of people might not know the name Mark Fletcher right now, but you will very soon. And then you add Cam Ward into that equation. The defenders, especially the D linemen, are going to be guessing a lot in that run game. So it'll be very interesting to see if he gets over there and what kind of effect that has. Wide receivers is another group that I'm kind of watching a little bit. I think they have a really good duo in Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George. I think those are two guys that are very, very solid, but you're likely going to need more than that. So I think a rotational piece would be hugely important now. They don't need to go after like the big names like Lambert Smith from Penn State, who feels like he's zeroing in on Auburn or Texas A&M. Justice Ross Simmons is another guy that has been kind of kicked around from Colorado State. It'll be interesting to see if they get interested in him or if they get interested in anyone. Maybe they feel plenty good about the wide receivers, but in my opinion, I think they should build that out just a little bit more and definitely add a guy that maybe has some speed, maybe more of a gadget type guy, just to, add a little bit more danger to this offense. And then on the defense is where the work just really needs to be done, to be totally honest with you. There are plenty of holes that need to be filled, whether it's depth holes or top end holes. I think there are some things that absolutely need to happen. The back end, I think, will be the most active. You have guys like Jacoby Matthews out of A&M that's out there right now. I think that he will probably end up at Oregon. That feels like where the tide is turning right now, but we'll definitely be watching that one closely. Cormani McClain is a corner that has not been getting necessarily the amount of interest that I thought he was going to get. Apparently, USC is an interesting team to watch there. Also, South Florida is another team to watch there. So not necessarily the big-time teams going after Cormani McClain, or at least not the quantity of them that I expected. But I think there's plenty of talent in this transfer portal pool to pull a corner and a safety and possibly even a linebacker and an edge rusher. So I think they will be very active, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then you got to add a running back. Damian Martinez would be the number one pick there, obviously, but plenty of good options right behind him. You have Andrew Paul, you have some other guys that could definitely be big-time players for you, but Damian Martinez is where all of this starts. And if it starts well with Damian Martinez committing, they feel very good about themselves going into the rest of this kind of portal period. But finally, just to give you an idea of why I think Miami is particularly the team that I think will take the biggest leap, and I touched on it at the beginning of this, and it's just because they have to. I think they're in a position where, first of all, Miami's NIL is as good as it gets across the country. They have so many donors that are fully ready to dip into their deep pockets and give some to the football program. So I think I think they are fully ready to go in. I think they are ready to just push all their chips to the middle of the table and really just let 2024 be a huge year for them. Next, living in Miami for a 2020 or 22-year-old kid, 23-year-old kid is never a bad thing. So that pitch never hurt anyone by any means. And then finally, I think you're right on the cusp of kind of Miami has everyone's attention. I think everyone is looking towards Miami as, Cam Ward and all of the stuff happening over there. But I do think that people are still doubting them. I think people still have questions about Mario Cristobal. I think they still have questions about this roster overall. And I think that's where kids really want to be. I think they want to be at the school that, yes, they're going to get viewed by NFL scouts and all of that type of thing. But also, they want a chip on their shoulder. They want to be part of a team that kind of defies expectations and does something special. So I think that's something that might not be talked about too much as we go through this portal cycle, but Miami, among some other teams around the country like Ole Miss and some others, definitely are in a position where you're at the table, but people might not necessarily take you seriously yet. And a kid being a part of, making a team serious is something that I think cannot be taken for granted. And then finally, having Cam Ward there helps everything. It increases the urgency from the donor perspective, from the coaching perspective, and it increases the number of guys that want to come play for that team. Because when you look at a guy leading that offense the way that he is capable of leading it, I think a lot of guys would look over and say, this is a team that could make some noise. I think when you walk out of this 2 weeks, I think this Miami team could be an outright playoff contender. I think they could patch a lot of the holes they have. Cam Ward could be in a position where he has tons of weapons to play around with. Damian Martinez joining that backfield will make that offense absolutely lethal. I just think this is a team that could walk out as a playoff contender. They could walk out with what looks like a playoff contender and then fall on their face. So it'll be really interesting to see not only what happens over the next couple of weeks with Miami, but how those players land in 2024. But I do really expect the Hurricanes to be very, very active in this portal, and not only active with, patching holes and getting depth guys, but be active for the big dogs. Anyone that joins where your mouth kind of drops open a little bit, like the Damian Martinez's of the world, I think you will hear about Miami in those recruitments. So definitely a team to keep your eye on. Definitely a team that I am very, very interested in because I like them right now, but I could absolutely love them in a couple of weeks. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or X, TikTok, Instagram for all of the content and updates. We have so many incredible shows all across our pages. We have a soccer podcast coming up with my guy Emron. We have a women's sports podcast coming up with Marquisha. So just insane amounts of content coming out of GSMC. So if you need anything from the world of sports, we have you covered. But thank you once again for listening, and you guys have a wonderful day.